stricter local rent caps. Hi, my name's Elyssa, managing broker of EJ Properties based here in beautiful Orange County, California. We're going to talk about the rent increase limits today. Just want to say happy Friday. Today is July 18th. This is relevant information that's coming up for current rent increases. Let's get into it. For 2025 to 2026 rent increase limits, Southern California local update. We looked at LA County, Riverside County, San Bernardino, and we have a couple cities in this area that do a local ordinance. We'll go over those. This is all in relation to AB 1482, which became law regarding rent increases throughout all of California. It limits how much rent can be increased for non-exempt. Really important, people know the difference between non-exempt and exempt. These are for non-exempt residential properties. That means, let's go down a little bit. When you're talking about non-exempt, this goes into who is exempt, but non-exempt means that you are a multifamily unit that was not newly constructed. All multifamily units, you're going to have 2 units unless you're owner-occupied duplex. See? That's why there's all these exemptions. Owner-occupied duplex, you're exempt. Newly built in the last 15 years, you're exempt. Single-family home or condo, you're exempt unless you're owned by a real estate investment trust. Right here, real estate investment trust. Basically, if you're a multi-unit property, you're not exempt. You follow these rules. But if you're a single family home, you are exempt unless you're part of a real estate corporation. Then you probably know that you're not exempt. Just to kind of keep exempt versus non-exempt. And if you don't know, please reach out, ask it in the comments. We'd be happy to answer based on this civil code, or even shoot you over AB 1482 and you're welcome to read it. It's a fun read. It's a statewide limits under AB 1482. Orange County, LA, Long Beach, Anaheim, they all follow the same CPI. CPI is the Consumer Price Index. This is not just CPI, but actually change in CPI, and that's 3%. That can go up 3% or down 3%, whatever the change is from point A to point B. And that makes the maximum rent increase allowed at 8%. Remember, this is capped at 10%. That's from AB 1482. You cannot increase more than 10%, but it is capped at 5% plus the change in CPI. So change CPI is 3%, 5% plus 3 is 8%. That is your current rent increase allowable for multi-units in California at the top end of everything. Riverside change was 2.5%, therefore they're capped at 7.5%. This applies from August 1st to July 31st next year. Always, it's important to know that there's certain areas with stricter local rent caps. One of the most prevalent in particular we're in Orange County. Santa Ana beats its own drum. They have their own goal in mind for what's happening with property in their city. And I will say, although it's not great for investors, it is great for the occupants that live there. They're doing exactly what they wanted. They wanted to create affordable housing for people that live and work and want to be in Santa Ana and own in Santa Ana, and what they're doing has been very effective. I will say that. Now, investors don't really like it, and that's fine. That's not the city for you to be investing in then. Go somewhere else. Santa Ana, they cap it at 3% or 80% of the Consumer Price Index CPI. Because the CPI was 3.02, that cap is 2.42. That's 80% of 3.02. And that is their max increase for multi-units for non-exempt properties in Santa Ana. Something to also know about Santa Ana is that they have a rent control board. They have basically a government office where everyone that has a rental unit, regardless of exempt or non-exempt, you do have to let the city know that you're doing rentals in the city, and they keep track of it. And I think there's a small annual payment. It's like $50 or $60 a year that you just have to pay the city. And so Santa Ana kind of does its own thing, but they do have their own increase. It's stricter than the rest of the state, which from my understanding, any city can decide to be stricter than the rest of the state. We do see some areas kind of pushing towards this. Costa Mesa is one of them. They're not there yet. Pasadena is moving in that direction. The city of Los Angeles, LA County in general is stricter. It gets really tough. There's unincorporated, there's city of LA, there's LA County. They all kind of have things going on. But from my understanding, they're using 60% of CPI, max 3%, very similar. Santa Ana does follow the city of LA a lot. They kind of feed off of each other in regards to rental or residential ordinances. 60% of CPI, max 3%. Pasadena, they're doing a rent cap that's at 3%, but they're also following some numbers that have not been released yet. So we don't really know exactly what's going on with Pasadena yet. All right, and then notice is required. So there's no change here, but this is just something to go over again. Anytime you are increasing the rent on someone who's not in a lease agreement, who pays rent for the month, they pay on the 1st to stay there for the month, then it is to be given 30 days notice. And that's not just for rent, that's for any change. If you have a tenant staying there, paying rent on a month-to-month period, so they pay for 30 days, they stay for 30 days, that's a month-to-month contract, then any change that you make is supposed to be a 30-day notice. You need them to start cleaning up the yard when they were not cleaning up the yard before. That's a 30-day notice. Anything you're changing of the terms, where they pay rent, a lot of tenants are very polite and do pay rent where you ask them to pay because they don't want to be late, but you should give them 30-day notice. That's the right thing to do. It's a proper thing to do. 90-day notice is required when it's over 10%. It has to be a 90-day notice for the rent increase of over 10%. That increase is rare. Honestly, I don't really like messing with those too much. It can be done, but just because something can be done, should it be done? You have to have really good reasoning if you're going to be doing that kind of thing, because people are going to push back on it. That when people feel wronged, that's when they sue. So don't just push something because you can. Do what's right. That's our philosophy. That's what we always live and breathe by. We already kind of went over who's exempt, and here's a little summary table. It's helpful. Look at it. You can see what's going on from 2025 to 2026 and where it's coming from. You have some local ordinances, rent stabilizations. Long and short of it is that for Orange County, from August 1st until the end of July 2026, that rent increases are maxed at 8%. And that is for multi-units. Is really the easiest way to think about that. If you live in a multi-unit building, you're not owner occupied on the other side, you're not newly constructed, and you're not owned by a real estate corporation, then that's the rent increase cap. I usually just say simply said as multi-units, but of course there's some exemptions in there and people should be aware of their exemptions. This leads into another video. We're actually going to go over it real quick. We're going to go over security deposits because that's different than exempt and non-exempt. It's not quite exactly this video, but I think it's going to be really good to add on. It's like a bonus segment. Ready, set, go. The Wayback Time Machine. We're going way back to January of this year, and this segment was actually brought on from a conversation happening on Nextdoor, and it's something that changed in July of last year, where security deposits used to be you can collect 2 months for an unfurnished property and 3 months for a furnished property, and that all changed. Now it depends, and owners hate when I have to have this conversation with them. And it's kind of funny. They go, "Can I charge 2 months security deposit?" And I go, "Well, how many rental units do you own?" And they get shy because they probably own a lot. And if you own a lot, then you only get to charge 1 month. That's just how it goes. And so they don't like that I have to have that conversation with them, but I do, and everyone should. Our first and last month's allowed, that's actually the segment that the question was on Nextdoor. She was like, "I'm charging first and last month." People were like, "You can't do that." And I was like, let's look into it. Our bonus segment, let's talk about security deposits. Limits to 1 month rent. Assembly Bill AB 12 caps it to 1 month for both furnished and unfurnished, but there's an exemption. You can still charge 2 months only if you're a qualified small landlord. Qualified small landlord, who qualifies? You have to meet all the criteria here. You cannot own no more than 2 residential rental properties. And they have to be owned by a natural person, not an LLC, not a corporation, not a real estate investment trust. The caveat is you can have it in a personal trust, because a lot of times that's a pass-through to a natural person. but you cannot have it in a business entity. And you cannot have a total of 4 units. So let's break that down. No more than 2 properties and no more than 4 units. That means you cannot have more than 2 duplexes, right? No more than 2 properties. So you can have a triplex and a single family, a single condo. That's 4 units and no more than 2 properties. So that's how it breaks down. It's kind of awkward. You know, it's a little confusing. If you want to be on the safe side, charge 1 month's rent. If you want to enact your exemption, then, you know, just do it right. Like we said, just do what's right. And that's a little bit of flexibility for this small owner. If you're interested to find out what the answer was, or at least what my opinion of the answer was to my neighbor on Nextdoor, go ahead and follow the link in the description below and come over and read it. So it says, what can a property owner take at move-in? What can they collect? All right. Thank you so much for joining us today. Have a lovely rest of your July. Locally, we have the OC Fair actually open today. July 18th is the first day. We also have the US Open coming up in a couple weeks, and they're prepping downtown for that. So there's a lot going on. Definitely feels like summer. Take care. Talk to y'all soon.